Listen, why is a Sonic level hard when so am I? Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to the Game Skit today, and only today, we are going to react and discuss this video making the rounds called "Why Are People So Bad at Sonic Games?" Because there's definitely a discussion about this, right? Where like you'll watch like critics or like casual people how they play Sonic, and it'll make you like feel like a crazy person. Like I've had that not just with critics. I've seen a lot of casual people struggle with Sonic. So we're gonna watch my boy Mark's video, talk over it, and see, if we can, let's see what we can gauge out of this and understand potentially,
Sonic
right?
the Hedgehog can be a pretty divisive series, to put it lightly. Some people love it, some crazy people hate it.
Yeah, it's true.
But if there were a narrative around the series that plagued online discussion for the longest time, it would have to be that the Sonic franchise started to go downhill the second they made the jump to 3D.
These footage, bro.
Of course, we as a society have begun to move past this nonsense.
Yes,
Sonic Adventure is a great game. Dated as all hell. But Sonic's first string of 3D outings were highly praised at the time of release.
Sonic Adventure, damn, I forgot, 2.5 million at the time for Dreamcast alone for Sonic Adventure. Shit, we were selling.
As well as being massive commercial successes.
We were selling.
Yet for some reason, the narrative online always seemed to be about how perfectly simple the 2D entries were, how brilliantly all the mechanics came into place to create a set of some of the best platforms ever developed. But when Sonic went to the scary third dimension, this simplicity was lost. The basic, easy to pick up and play control scheme has been made infinitely more complex when taking added access into
third dimension.
The games were too fast. Sonic had become impossible to control without careening off the side of the stage. Bottomless pits became the player's biggest enemy over, well, the actual enemies. What were they thinking?
What happened?
No, this isn't a video about Sonic's jump to the third dimension or whether or not you can justify these criticisms. Not fully, at least. Instead, I wanted to talk about something I've noticed for years, which led to a question I've had in the back of my mind for the longest time.
Are they hard, bro?
I could never really figure out the answer to. At least, not until today.
He figured it out, y'all. He figured it out.
The question is, why are people so bad at Sonic games?
Now, he's about to get in this, right? But I guess I'll make my prediction, right? I mean, it's pretty simple. I think it is the fact that they're speed-based platformers, that their games were like, you're either boosting really fast, and I would say like 95% of platformers, like you're walking at a brisk pace. Maybe you have like a little dash mechanic, whereas like Sonic, it's effectively like you're platforming a moving vehicle. Obviously, without as many drift and stuff, but it's definitely like, I think that's the aspect, because a lot of people will pick it up as a regular platformer, but it's a lot more speed-based. But let's see. Maybe we're wrong.
Specifically.
Right?
But 9 times out of 10, when you see a person spike this rhetoric of how bad the 3D Sonic games are, you'll see that exact same person play the game, and they suck at it.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder in certain cases, is the game actually bad? Or are you?
Obviously,
that doesn't work in every case. Being bad at a game doesn't always mean it's some misunderstood masterpiece you just don't get.
That's true.
And you can be a pro Fortnite gamer at certain games and still think they suck.
That's true.
But my perspective comes more so from noticing an almost unwillingness to engage with a Sonic game's mechanics, and then proceed to call it terrible when said game rightfully punishes them for it. But even beyond all that, it's not just Sonic Heroes I'm talking about. There just seems to be something about 3D Sonic games, the early ones specifically, that
doesn't
gives them a
click.
much higher barrier of entry compared to his contemporaries like Mario or Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah, I mean, again, like, already from the jump, it's like we watch videos of like IGN playing it or whatever, and we watch videos of IGN playing these games, and they're always like missing out on like different mechanics, or they're not trying to engage with the game. It seems like they're trying to play it, it feels like they're just kind of, again, like they play it like a traditional platformer, which I understand, whereas like Sonic games are a little bit more arcadey, and that you have to learn them, right?
Letting my little cousin play through Sonic Adventure 2, Heroes, and Generations after we sped through most of the Mario games, and there was just something about it he didn't get. I noticed when he died, he'd get much more agitated than he did when playing other games. As if he felt the deaths weren't his fault. Not to say there's no kid out there who could pick up and play
Which, to be fair, There is validity. There's a lot of deaths in like older 3D sagas that are unfair and not your fault.
I was that kid.
You know?
But certainly a lot harder to get into for the average person. In fact, this thought came to me while watching 2 videos. The first was an IGN clip of the cast of Sonic 3 playing City Escape, where Ben Schwartz, who's meant to be promoting what's basically Sonic Adventure 2 the movie, says,
I got the game to play on Xbox, and I found the controls to be so difficult that I watched a playthrough.
And the second big, very old stream the official Sonic social media did with current Sonic voice
That happens, bro. That happens.
Similarly got him to play through City Escape. Went about as well as you could imagine.
Oh, come on! Is this why everybody likes City Escape? I'm hitting A when I should be hitting
Sonic angered the police.
Oh, God.
Look, so I'm pressing the button as soon as I get to it, and it's not happening.
Again, I noticed just in these gameplay clips that where they fail, they're playing a lot like it's a regular like platformer, which again, like it's fine because like I understand, you know, regular platformers all operate in the same kind of way where you're like moving through an environment at a normal pace, you hit things and you get up, right? Whereas with Sonic, it's like to attack an enemy, you don't just jump on it. You like have, especially in the 3D games, you have to homing attack on it, right? Or like, you know, when you get to those parts where like, you know, there's the ramp, you have to jump, you have to press A right at the right moment, you know? Like most platformers play the same, but Sonic doesn't. You know, I think that's the big thing.
It's so unfair. I pressed the B button.
They're mad.
My man's suffering, bro. My man's suffering.
You're gonna take.
Come on.
Oh, no.
Oh, why did I do that? Why did I do that? You should have told me not to do the homing attack. This is really frustrating.
When it comes to City Escape, the funniest part to me is that 9 times out of 10,
Dude, I love City Escape.
Stumps people. The same moment where their skills are put to the test, and more often than not, it results in their death. That section is...
Yeah, that'll happen.
Which would be child's play in any other 3D platformer seems way harder for people.
Because again, in a platformer, I think what the player thinks they have to do here is like, here they would think, okay, I have to jump down here or jump over this. Instead of like, homing attack,
Platformer,
right?
Seems way harder for people to grasp when put in control of Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah.
I have seen more people die at this specific moment than I've seen my own father. It's weird, right?
That's tough.
It's not
I
like
get
they're
you,
a
Mark.
final
Me
rush or
too.
anything. This is stage 1. What's meant to be the tutorial.
Yeah.
To someone who's played City Escape a million times over,
Come on,
it's like,
bro.
What are you doing? Why?
Yeah.
Now, of course, I'm not criticizing their inability to lock in, so to speak.
Yeah. No,
Don't get it twisted. I also don't care that Roger Craig Smith is bad at playing Sonic. That would be ridiculous.
No, of course, he's a voice actor. He
I'm
doesn't
just
have
more
to.
so confused than anything. Why are Sonic games so hard to get into compared to most other 3D platformers?
Hey, man.
I think I've managed to
He's
come up with
figured
an
it out.
answer.
Okay.
I want to discuss the one element which I believe causes 3D Sonic games to be so much harder to pick up and play for the average gamer.
Speed.
And that element is the jump.
Oh.
/ homing attack. Now, this
Okay,
all
yeah,
might
that's what I
sound
was talking
completely
about.
Asinine. Really? The jump? That's why you think it's so hard for people to grasp Sonic
It is.
games?
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
Yeah, kinda. Obviously, Sonic doesn't have the most insane, hard to wrap your head around jump of all time or anything.
Yeah.
You know, you press the button and go up. Grind-breaking stuff. But it's the little things that build up, which I believe resulted in a lot of folks struggling with Sonic's control scheme.
Yeah.
And ironically, it all stems from the effort Sega made to try and make things as simple for the player
The
as
jump.
possible. In the classic games, jumping was pretty simple to understand, being an evolution on the time of movement revolution.
Again, yeah, it's like you look back at this, right? The jump, it's like you jump to hit, right? Or like you jump to, you know, go over, right? With the homing attack, like some people think you gotta mash it. Some people don't know that like it's better sometimes you gotta press it and then get to the next one and then move a little bit, get to the next one, move a little bit, get to the next one. Like there's an aspect there of like learning, right? Where again, like in 95% of platformers, you jump on the thing. You know what I mean? Like you hop on it and like that's it. That's all, right?
Movement revolutionized by the original Super Mario Brothers.
Look how much easier it is to jump on enemies in a 2D plane. Yeah.
How far your jump takes you. Instead of being binary, you know, pressing right and jumping, sending you the same distance no matter what the circumstances, which quite a few games did back then. It then became expected for the player to be given full control over their jump, to control your trajectory in a way that felt realistic.
Interesting, actually.
The faster you went, the harder it was for you to control your landing. Want a bit more agency? then just take things slow and take advantage of the greater sense of control that
That's like it really is a good point. I never thought of it like that, where like, yeah, I guess learning the jump is the hard part, because like I've seen so many people, it's even more difficult to learn Sonic's jump rhythm. It's a matter of pattern, which most people don't want to learn. Yeah, it's like, it's not, yeah, I don't think that it's more difficult. It's just that it's literally just another way to play a game. And that's why they're cool. I mean, that's why we love fucking playing these games, because like I said, I really think it is super arcadey and fun to learn how to play Sonic games. But a lot of people play them like a regular traditional level where you just have, you know, a set of, you know, my jump kills the enemy and I'm back on the ground. I jump, I kill the enemy, I'm back on the ground. Whereas Sonic, like, if I'm going fast, I hit an enemy in the air, it bounces me way farther.
Once again, influenced by Super Mario Brothers, the way Sonic interacted with enemies.
When you hit the flow state's unmatched, I agree.
If you want to be more cautious, you can slow down.
Like, how are you supposed to tell a casual person, like on this wall over here, that if you're speeding to it and you jump, you're gonna like jump all the way here? You know, an average person is just gonna let that go, like let the player go up, and then they're gonna find themselves going back down, right?
Enemy and bonk them on the head, or take the safest approach possible.
I think the stream is frozen.
The disadvantage there, obviously, being you're completely at the mercy of the level design. Whereas if you feel skilled and, most importantly,
people would know.
Enough, you can take the option of jumping into enemies without slowing down.
Yeah, look at that.
Trusting your jump and keeping your flow as a result.
Hell
you can
yeah.
get some insane height by doing this. You're basically treating the enemies like glorified bounce pads.
Yes, sir. Boom, big jumps.
In 3D, a problem arose, however. With a character as fast and unwieldy as Sonic, how can we alleviate any frustration that may come with tediously trying to land your jump on enemies? Of course, we all know this sparks the creation of the homing attack, a move which lets you home in on nearby targets to make sure there's no chance of missing. Yeah,
I mean, obviously, homing attack is like a big part of the series now. The fact that Sonic could do a loop jump to get more speed while in a loop, but at the right time speaks volumes about the depth of his jump and unique movement, and how level design augments Sonic as well, all of which are not standard platforming design. Yeah, I think there's like you're saying, like there's like a rewarding aspect to nailing the jump, because again, like sometimes you could even like, if you finish the homing attack chain, you go right into the bounce, or you can go into this. Kind of crazy that it took until Unleashed to get the reticle. Oh yeah, without the reticle, it definitely makes it difficult too. Because sometimes, like, some people think you can mash. Sometimes you'll see you just go to a different direction. It's different,
well, the
right?
Dash, basically just what happens when you perform a homing attack when there's nothing to home in on.
Yeah.
This was an incredibly smart decision on Sonic Team's part, especially given the super short turnaround.
That's why they get so much free playable compared to other platformers. Yeah.
Span of only 10 months. They most likely didn't have the advantage of getting to test out Sonic's
Give my bounce pad
over and over again to make sure they were perfect. I mean, for comparison, it's said that Nintendo spent roughly the same amount of time on Mario 64 just on making sure Mario was fun to control. Time was not on Sonic Team's side, and so the homing attack was a needed inclusion. Which
I think is a good, I mean, obviously the homing attack is like iconic, and I like the homing. I'm glad it exists. I personally like having to aim when homing attack myself. It gives more depth to the attack, but I get why they added the reticle. Yeah, I think they just added it to make things a little bit more logical. In that sense, they did make adventure in 10 months. But yeah, like even like Mario's, I just find Sonic's movement is so much more fun, whereas like Mario's is like easy to control. Like I said, it's, when we've been saying this over like this video, is like it's all about what makes Sonic fun is replaying and relearning these levels and doing better at them, because you enter a unique flow state. With Mario, obviously if you're speedrunning, yeah, there's no like flow state you get into when you play a Mario level, right? Like with Mario, it's like I'm in this level, I can take my time, you know, get there at my own pace, do my thing. With Sonic, like you are going down a hill, into a jump, into, you know, a grind rail, into a loop. Like there's definitely a flow state you can get into, which is not the same thing ever with something like Mario.
In the way some people approach Sonic games, and they use the homing attack as a crutch.
Yeah.
Gotta specify again, not a homing attack hater or anything. I like the homing attack.
Me too.
It's fun. And when used properly,
bounce.
It to be a kind of rhythmic satisfaction from pulling it off. But however, the way it's used in certain Sonic games only really serves in letting players get away with not getting as accustomed to Sonic's controls as they could be.
Right.
If the game asked more from them than just pressing jump twice.
Yeah.
Let me use this same moment from Cityscape as the perfect example for what I mean. How do you approach this segment?
Let me see this.
Well, realistically, you're just kind of expected to press the homing attack button a couple times. Perfectly fine. I like this segment. And as a tutorial, it's a great way of showing the player how they can chain enemies together
Top
to reach
area.
greater distances and avoid other obstacles such as the bottomless pit. However, moments like these, I think, have the sad ramification of teaching the player to have an over-reliance on the homing attack.
Yeah.
You know, press A in case of emergency. In reality, this segment is easily beatable by just jumping. But it's something the game rarely asks of you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he's going to talk about it as we go in here. It's like the homing attack definitely creates sometimes a simplicity aspect, right? Where it's just like, and I'm at a spot, right? Whereas like one thing I really loved about Shadow Gens, like, you know, there's that part in Radical Highway where you're on like the grind rail and then you could jump off to do a homing attack to get to a different path, where I'm like, okay, that's an interesting way to do it, as opposed to if you just made it smash, 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 I'm on the right path. If you make it something I have to like think about and get to optionally, then I think that's like a really fun way to do it, right?
Would be the perfect way to get a player accustomed to how giving your jumps a running start can be the difference between life and death.
And they're
I
gone.
often see players, instead of taking a step back and building up speed to ensure your jump takes you to where you want to go, instead simply jumping from a standstill and air dashing to get that distance.
Right.
But because of the game's odd collision, air dashing into an object oftentimes results in being flung off into the abyss and getting frustrated because, realistically, that's the main move they've been taught to rely on.
Right.
Because of how much air drag Sonic has after jumping, it results in the player
people die so much
going into panic mode and instinctually pressing the homing attack button.
I know so many people that after a homing attack like don't know where to go, like if they should keep moving forward or like stop or whatever, and then they just die.
Press in case of emergency.
You know,
in which this sudden burst of speed dev
becomes
overwhelming. Too much to follow.
There it is.
And careen to their death as a result. Spamming is a big problem I've noticed when it comes to the homing attack. I often witness people approaching a bad nick or a series of bad nicks and
with
spamming the attack button, trying to chain through them as fast as possible, which the game obviously can't handle and sends them to their death.
I really do think like this is the big thing that I'm discovering. It's just like people play these games like they shouldn't learn them, but at the same time, it's like, can I blame them? A little bit. I feel like you can definitely blame people for like reviewing something or playing something and not wanting to learn how it is. But also I feel like the game should do a better job of teaching you. You know, I feel like a lot of Sonic games like let you free instead of having like a tutorial in some way to teach you. I feel like that would help. Like I played like fan games for Sonic where like they have like a little tutorial level, right? Where it's like, all right, do this so you can do this. Here, try this move. I feel like if you gave people some kind of, tutorial and then you could let the good players learn all the techs, I think that matters. Yeah, tutorial, like Frontiers has the tutorials when you're in the loading screen, which is pretty good. If the game doesn't do a good job teaching the player, that's the game. So I agree with that as well. That's true. That's a valid argument.
In the early 3D games, Sonic's homing attack went
It's okay to think other platformers are your first time. It's also your fault if you call it ass to learn the mechanics. I agree with that.
As realistic as something as absurd as an air dash could be, sending Sonic downwards because gravity and stuff. But because Sonic no longer gets as much of a bounce from attacking as he did in the 2D games, he doesn't have enough height for the game to register the other enemy being within range. You're generally only able to homing attack
Super Flames, thank you for the tier 1 sub, my goat.
On your level.
The
game attempts to teach the player this through the first boss, Bigfoot, in which you have to specifically homing attack his cockpit in order to do damage. Like that segment from City Escape, I cannot begin to tell you how many times I've watched someone try to beat this fight by just spamming the homing attack button when he lands and hoping for the best.
But again, it's like, I don't blame people because like this, it's not identified. Like, I feel like Sonic bosses for sure are something that like are a skill check for people because often they don't know where to hit. They don't understand how the boss operates. Yeah, BK is saying that's why Riders failed. Riders is the #1 example of Sega not teaching you a game where like inherently it's not that difficult. Hold A when you're at a ramp to do a bunch of cool trips. You as a kid, I needed to go to the pit stop in Sonic Riders like a million times, right? As an adult, I very rarely ever have to do that because you know how to drift for the most part. If you do the tricks in the air, you're fine and everything. But again, these are things you actively have to try yourself to do,
Hoping for the best. Not realizing
with Shadow Gens, I love East Level hopes to give you a sneak peek what the boss mechanics are. Radical Highway with the wings and Black Doom with sunsets. I agree.
The jump button, Sonic goes much higher than just by tapping it. This becomes even more of an issue for the people unable to catch on to the fact that you can hold down the button for added height after using the homing attack, allowing you to go much higher in the air and therefore giving the game more of a chance to detect other enemies.
Yeah, it's definitely on the game.
I said too, while incredibly basic, I can appreciate at least attempting to try and help the player understand the basic power of their jump. You even get the chance to attempt to hit him early by jumping on top of these wooden crates and holding down the button to try and reach him as he flies by. But it's something I rarely see new time players pick up on.
The boxing wasn't something I learned until like recently.
And while it would be easy to blame the player for this lack of skill, at a certain point I have to wonder if it's partially on the game for not communicating this better.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about it. Like, there's definitely some sense of the game itself not telling you, not telling you, but like just not helping you a little bit. I really feel like if the first level, now you could argue have, Omocha to tell you stuff, but I feel like the game, if they just had a level dedicated to telegraphing you stuff, explaining to you stuff, and being like, check mark if you get it. Because like, how like Devil May Cry or other combo games will have like a check mark if you do the combo right. I feel like that helps, because Frontiers does that actually. Frontiers, when you're in the loading screen, you'll do like a little tutorial thing and it does like a check mark if you did it right, which I think that's a good thing. That's a very good thing.
Slight issue with Adventure 1 and 2. Despite me loving those games and appreciating their confidence and just throwing the player right into things, what they miss there is a more overt tutorial. It shows the player how to grow accustomed to a character like Sonic, a character undeniably harder to control than most other platforming mascots. People oftentimes criticize the first adventure game for beginning with a boss fight, but I get why they did that. Putting you in the area.
Shadowgen does an excellent job with that, giving the players the abilities and levels to increase their toolset and giving them levels that allow them creative freedom. Yeah, I always like when you get a new like mechanic or a new thing, it's like, here, let's teach it to you, and now you're good. Right now, how you choose to flex it or expand on it is all on you, and you can figure it out. We can trust you with that, But that initial tutorial, just to give you the idea of it, is really good, and I like that a lot.
And giving you a clear target to defeat in order to get used to this newfangled homing attack.
Yeah.
But what I think they miss out on with this is a chance to let the player get used to platforming as Sonic. Kind of important in a platform.
A little bit,
I don't know, maybe a boss against Chaos Zero where you constantly evading you would have been better. You're sent on a linear path and runs away, causing destruction in the streets. You being forced to platform around it before reaching him at some kind of destination, in which they finally show you how the homing attack can be used to aim at targets.
Yes, sir.
Shows you how to effectively perform the homing attack, while still not overemphasizing that compared to general platforming.
Yeah.
It seems like Sonic Team eventually came to realize the fact that a lot of players struggled with 3D Sonic games, and decided to take action to make them more readily accessible to the general audience.
Which I think is still for good. I think a lot of games get shit for, how they simplify things, but I think it's important to have games make sense for a lot of people. Ironically, this is the problem for Penny. I mean, Penny's Big Breakaway is like the big example of this, right? Where like it's a game that kind of just expected you to know how to do cool shit, and it doesn't really explain it well. And so I could watch a Twitter video of someone doing something cool, but like I'm like, well, I wasn't explained this properly, right? And now I just kind of feel like the game is ass. I feel like that's like a perfect example of that,
So what did they do? Improve his controls, de-emphasize spamming the homing attack, and make the importance of learning how to control Sonic easier?
No.
What do you think? It
what
seems
did they
like
do?
The approach with fixing player frustration started with them making a move like the homing attack freak the player out less.
Yeah.
With each game, it got slower and slower, so they can more easily prepare for whatever move is like to make next. They got rid of its
I hope so too,
Instead,
BK.
it now sends you straight. So now you can more easily use it as a way of making sure you can make it over bottomless pits.
Yeah, I think I kind of like how like homing attack works today, but again, I don't like when it's used as like a crutch for like good level design. When it's just like, here's a homing attack, homing attack, homing attack. I like homing attacks that are like, you're going fast, hey, homing attack really quickly, and then you'll get to a different side. That's way more interesting than like just press it to get to a different spot. I tried Tony Hawk recently and I had the same problem. Dude, I am so bad at Tony Hawk. I cannot figure out those games, and I get why people love them. I've seen the cool combo videos, but the game does not do a good job about teaching you how to do stuff,
ensuring it doesn't cause you to lose your bearings because of how far it sends
right.
you.
Now it sends you like upwards a little bit.
Is no longer a move Sonic can even perform.
Yeah.
Being replaced with the much simpler to grasp double jump. A great inclusion when it comes to crossing great distances, but still doesn't make me shake the feeling that this is being used as some kind of leeway for folks who are capable of reaching their goal within a single jump.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about the double jump. it is definitely a crutch, right? Like the double jump is obviously like a like I'm gonna fall. Let me like make sure I don't fall. I could live without it. I feel like if the level design was better, I could live without it. I've never really thought about it, but it definitely slows down momentum, right? I don't think in an open game like Frontiers, but on Colors, it sucks. Yeah, I don't mind it in Frontiers where it's big platforming, but I could see why in older games, like it feels like a little crutch, but
not a bad
I don't think it's a bad thing.
Yeah,
helpful. He says it too.
But it's so helpful that platforming has become a tad mindless. There's
very
little
exactly.
To get good at controlling Sonic's jump because now you have a second jump to correct yourself.
Yeah.
And the homing attack has somehow become more of a crutch than it already was.
Yep.
In another
everything we're saying.
Somewhere, there's an evil, fucked up Sega who, with each new Sonic game, de-emphasized the homing attack.
Yeah, got rid of it.
For it to be used
Good luck.
It was always intended on being an id. A little
a
bit
momentum
of help
boost.
For such a fast character in 3D.
Yeah.
Not his primary function. Overall, I like Sonic Frontiers.
Me too.
But it's hard not to deny that for a majority of time spent in these massive open zone environments, all you're doing is pressing a single button. They've even simplified the range even further by allowing you to now hit targets from below Sonic, removing any sense of realistic physics by having Sonic awkwardly shoot himself upward.
Yeah, I mean, the homing attack is definitely like a crutch where like you could literally be like, you could be in front like of an enemy. And because the reticle is still on him, you could like jump to them back instead of like it being a tool for you to always go forward. It's a double-edged sword. It's definitely a difficult conversation to have when it comes to that. The spin dash in Frontiers. So I mean, the spin dash is just used nowadays as a means to get, to a faster location, but it's, not become a necessity. Homing attack is so badly used in Frontiers, especially because it takes 30 frames to hit. Oh yeah, where it does that slow thing after hitting an enemy, I do not like it. I feel like Frontiers is the most accommodating for both casuals and longtime fans. Yeah.
Like, okay, let me do a
I get
test.
that.
When approaching the 4th island, I was really excited to see how they would tackle you climbing these truly massive towers.
Yeah.
Oh boy, what have I got to do to get up there?
Homing attack.
Guys, alright, gamers. Here's how many button presses it takes me to get to the top of one of these towers.
Okay.
Sonic Front. It's so big I can't even view the camera that high. Jump.
Homing attack.
Jump. Okay. Jump. Jump. Jump.
Oh, like he's seeing how long you would take him. Okay.
Jump.
Jump.
Jump. Jump. Jump. Jump.
Yeah.
Jump. Didn't even use that jump. Homing attack. Homing attack. Homing attack. Homing attack. Homing attack. Homing attack. Homing attack.
I feel like this was definitely like rectified in Final Horizon without how fucking crazy some of those towers were. But yeah, like there's definitely a lot of the towers where it's like move, jump, jump, hit, now move, jump, hit, move. But the DLC ones, I feel like definitely rectified that for sure. They definitely tried to skill jump you. I love the towers in Final Horizon, as much of a bitch as they can be. But yeah, a lot of the early ones are simple. Now, obviously, there's some of the towers here where there's wall jumps and there's other stuff. But yeah, I agree. When home attack is used as a crutch, it's not as exciting. Where it's just here, do it just to do it.
It's like, was that fun? I don't know, a little, I guess.
The move has become so simplified that it's no longer satisfying to use.
Yeah.
Like, at least back then, you had to aim the thing in the direction you wanted to go, as well as being within some kind of close vicinity of your target.
Yeah, I get that.
However, with time, the range in which you can perform the move has reached a ludicrous degree.
Yeah, no, in Frontiers, it's ridiculous.
Between attacks in order to ensure you're not spamming the move makes you feel like you're moving at a snail's pace. They've stopped the spamming issue altogether by no longer making it an option.
Yeah.
And I think the most disheartening thing about it all is that this undeniably worked. I mean, think about it.
Right.
Pinpoint to me all the frustrating moments from playing as Sonic in the first few 3D entries. My mind jumps to the shoddy hit detection in Skydeck, missing a reel in Final Rush, that pumpkin chain in Heroes.
Fuck the
it's
pumpkin
easy to
chain.
assume that when watching someone play one of these games for the first time, they're going to have experienced at least one death of these parts. However, in Forces, Frontiers, I just can't think of any because half the time I feel like I'm on autopilot.
Yeah, I understand.
Love it. Because of this lack of frustration, because of the constant spectacle given to the players for basically just pressing a single button, it almost feels like the game is tricking the player into believing they've done more than they actually have.
Yeah, I mean, style over substance is definitely a thing. I think, like, again, I think Shadow Gens rectifies it because you can have, I think a level being cinematic can like you can get away with a level being simpler if it's cinematic, right? I feel like Shadow Gens kind of does that. I think with Forces, it's like ridiculous. With Forces, it's just like you are holding forward and like you're just pressing a button at a right time and that's it, you know? Whereas it feels like now it's like, even with some of the cyberspace levels, I like options. I agree with you, Agaz. I think he's being a little too harsh on Frontiers. I think Frontiers does have a lot more options than you think in terms of like the levels, especially when you have the homing attack and you can skip in, like you could like jump off certain parts of levels, you know?
I love it. I love this game.
Forces is also a movie that's true.
This was set to Sonic Forces. Every Sonic game that releases.
It's crazy. Can you watch that Wario Beal so better Mario games next? Yeah.
This feels like you're doing the same series of actions you've been doing since Sonic Adventure.
Yeah.
Only each subsequent time it gets more and more mindless. There's been no evolution.
Boom.
No matter how fun I think some of these games can be, it's hard not to deny that for the most part they've consisted of performing the same action over and over again for the past 25 years. Why?
What does he say about Shadow
Gens?
Gens?
Unleashed or Generations, in my opinion, could get away with a simplification due to their high speeds. The fact
yeah, I mean, like that's a big thing. Is like these games, the boost formula games, I feel like can do a really good job of. It's an obstacle course. It's a high-speed obstacle course where it's reaction-based, right? Like, you know, you have to react quickly. Like, I can go there to do this. I can jump off this to get to this enemy. Like, I think that's a really fucking good way to do it, you know? That's a really good way to handle that in modern games, you know?
They expect from the player. The challenge seen there primarily comes from more than just the platforming.
Yeah,
but
it's reaction times and everything.
Games as accessible as possible. I believe Sonic Team have taken the easy way out by actively leaning into
these
this
are QT stages essentially.
Yeah, more from their players by catering to this lack of engagement, whether it be from the automation to the simplification of moves. To me, it all comes back to the jump.
Right.
Something fun I like to do while playing through Shadow Generations is try and beat a stage while actively engaging with as little automation as possible. And it made me realize these characters are more than capable of doing this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look at a stage like Kingdom Valley Act 1. Most of these
I do that too.
Shadow is completely capable of making on his own.
Yep.
I can only wonder, why is there a spring sending me over here? Why doesn't the game trust me to do it myself? Why don't they involve a different mechanic that results in the same outcome of using a spring?
Yeah. This is point on my eyes is the reason why I don't consider Shadow Gens so automated. I can skip all this stuff, but if you follow the design, you have the problem of springs and boosters. No, like I agree. Like I have had some of my most fun speed running a 3D level with like some of the Frontier cyberspace ones, and especially like I'll tell you what, the most fun I had with Frontier cyberspace level replays is when I had the homing attack, because when you have the homing attack, right, you can like bounce, skip different parts, bounce down, continue your own attack. Like that's fun for me, you know. When I have sorry, why am I saying own attack? The spin dash. Sorry, wrong spin dash. Sorry, my brain broke. When I have the spin dash, that's some of the most fun I've had with cyberspace levels, because then I had an option where it's like, okay, the level is now at the will of how crazy I'm willing to go jump. Now, obviously, the spin dash is a little broken, right? You know, because it was added later, right? But I feel like if you had it from the beginning, there'd be a lot of cool spots you can skip. The same way that with Shadow Gens, when you use the spears and you like jump forward through different areas, it's fucking awesome.
It requires
you know?
more from the player than just homing in on it.
Yeah.
Why doesn't the game trust
spin dash plus boost jumps make it insanely fun?
This is intentional on Sonic Team's part.
Break the stage of the spin dash fun.
Fundamentals of Sonic. It's not the springs or the dash
I see what they mean, though.
It's the satisfaction of knowing you used your abilities, as well as your surroundings, to get to where you wanted to go. That's what makes skipping the bridge in Emerald Coast fun.
Yep.
That's what makes real jumping in Frontiers fun.
Yep.
That's what makes Sonic fun.
The classic.
Again, we reach the question. Why are people so bad at Sonic games?
Because they're booty cheeks, bro!
Because Sonic games
They 100% lean into having easy pass and hard pass with extreme rewards collectibles. Yeah, because Sonic games let. Damn, that was deep, bro. That was really deep. No, I get what they're saying. You know, I understand what they're saying. Like, they definitely made things a little simpler. But yeah, I think, Cuban, thank you for the sub. I believe that they're in the right direction with Shadow Gens, right? I think they are making them... there's a balance. It's really... It's hard to balance a Sonic game, because like I said, I've seen so many people struggle with with Sonic is. But again, like I think of Aru, right? Like Aru was able to play through Shadow Gens like start to finish. She did that. She barely needed help, and I feel like it did a good job of teaching her how to play the game. And they added mechanics, and she figures it out. That's cool, Like I think that's like a really dope way to do it, for today. They pretty much nailed player expression with Shadow Gens, and that's what they need to do it for the future games. I agree. Like if the next, open zone game has the spin dash right away, have it be a little more balanced so that I could have fun. I feel like they're still afraid of letting players be free. I agree, because so far it does feel like we're exploiting things, right? Like the spear tech is not something they planned on, nor was what's that called, the homing dash, right? That we learned in Frontiers, where like you press square and boost, because that was also some of the most fun I had in those games, right? When in Frontiers, when I was doing the homing dash, right, press square and then R2 right away to boost forward, right? That shit was crazy. Remember when R was playing SA2? Yeah, it's like it was a nightmare, because she was like, well, do I go this way? Do I go that way? Yeah, rail boosting in Frontiers. It felt like techs that I didn't feel intentional were the best ways to have fun with those games, and I'm glad I learned them. But yeah, they need to give things a bit more balance. We're like, hey, we know that you're gonna try this, and we're gonna try to make this something that if you as a player know how to do, we reward you for it, right? Like, hey, what if you did the spin dash up apart and like, boom, there's a red ring or something? You know what I mean? So I think rewarding players, for which I think Shadow Gens did a good job at. There's some of the stuff you can find that's really good. It's kind of like how in Mario, right? Either I get speedrunner tech absolutely makes Sonic feel so much faster, but it's hard to design it for that 99% of the time. It's totally unintentional. Exactly, RJ. I mean, you would know. You speedrun stuff all the time. But yeah, really good video. That's my goal right there. Mark actually just messaged me being, I don't know my Twitch password, but thank you for watching the video. He cooked. Everybody give Mark some love. Go watch. I should subscribe. That should subscribe to this channel. But yeah, no, good discussion as well. Love that. That's not Mark. This is the GOAT, bro.